All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a staggeringly huge topic, the 50,000-year journey of how Chinese cuisine actually evolved. We're going to see how humanity went from basic, raw survival eating to creating a highly sophisticated global art form. But specifically, we are going to focus on a really captivating angle, how the actual physical methods of cooking transformed over millennia to give us the iconic dishes we know and love today. So before we really get going, I want you to just picture your absolute favorite Chinese takeout order. Got it? Is it a perfectly roasted, crispy duck, maybe a really complex, bubbling, spicy stew, or delicate, hand-folded steamed dumplings? Well, how long did it actually take to invent the physical cooking techniques behind that exact order? Because the history behind your favorite meal is this epic story of culinary accumulation. I mean, it definitely didn't happen overnight. It took thousands of years of trial, error, and just sheer innovation in the kitchen to get those methods right. To make sense of all this, we've broken this timeline down into 6 distinct eras. 1. The spark of cooking. 2. Domestication and early techniques. 3. The birth of regional flavors. 4. Silk Road and new ingredients. 5. Imperial banquets and foreign influence. And finally, 6. The modern Chinese table.
Let's start right at the beginning with Era 1, the spark of cooking.
When you look at the sheer scale of deep time, early humans in the Paleolithic period were just hunting animals and eating them entirely raw. There was zero knowledge of fire. But then, about 50,000 years ago, everything changed. The legendary figure Suiren sparked a total culinary revolution by inventing fire-making using wood. I mean, this is the absolute foundation of cooking, right? Purposely applying heat to fundamentally change the chemical structure of food. And the methodology evolved really quickly from there. By 5500 BCE, we see this crucial shift. Pork isn't just being charred whole over an open flame anymore. It's being deliberately butchered, cut, and served in small pieces for special occasions. That early focus on cutting meat into bite-sized pieces is actually a foundational preparation technique that still defines so much of Chinese wok frying today.
Moving right along into Era 2, domestication and early techniques.
You know, a clear geographical split practically dictated Chinese cooking methods right from the start. By 5000 BCE, rice is being heavily cultivated in central and eastern China, and that leads directly to boiling methods and eventually the complex fermentation needed to create rice wine. Meanwhile, up in the north, they're relying on millet and making hearty millet porridge. Then around 4000 BCE, sheep and cattle are introduced, completely changing the available proteins and how you have to cook them. And by 2000 BCE, Emperor Fuxi is traditionally credited with teaching folks not just crop cultivation, bringing in wheat, taro, and yams, but explicitly teaching cooking methods. People aren't just foraging anymore, they are actively managing and processing their food supply.
Here is where things get really interesting. By the Western Zhou period, cooking methods just absolutely exploded in complexity. We evolve way beyond basic boiling over a fire. Suddenly, chefs are utilizing these complex, multi-step methods like roasting, stewing, and pickling. And let's talk about pickling for a second. That is a profound leap forward. It's not just about preserving food for the winter, it's a completely new method of acid flavor development. It was during this exact time that these advanced techniques were used to create the famous 8 delicacies dishes. Cooking had officially transitioned from a daily survival necessity into a highly skilled, respected craft.
This era also dropped 3 massive culinary innovations. First, we get the earliest evidence of bronze chopsticks. This completely changes the physical method of how food is transported from a pot to a bowl and how it's manipulated while cooking. Second, and this is absolutely crucial for technique, the cultivation of soybeans and the extraction of soybean oil. Using this highly refined oil for fat completely revolutionized frying and sautéing methods. And finally, the production of rice alcohol spirit. This wasn't just for drinking. It became a vital, everyday liquid cooking ingredient used for deglazing pans and flavoring heavy meats.
Which brings us to Part 3, the birth of regional flavors.
During the Eastern Zhou to Qin eras, the original 4 regional cuisines really started taking shape. Up in the north, Shandong cuisine became famous for its highly skilled, technically demanding cooking methods requiring absolute precision with a knife. Meanwhile, way over in the west, Sichuan was already developing its signature use of fiery, bold spices, which required chefs to master the incredibly delicate art of balancing intense flavors without ruining the dish. The other 2, Jiangsu in the south with its super rich ingredients, and Guangdong with its mild, fresh flavors, rounded out those original 4. Basically, geography was dictating not just what ingredients you used, but the actual methods required to prepare them.
But, it wasn't just about what they ate or even how they cooked it. You can't talk about this era without mentioning Confucius. He established formal culinary standards and incredibly strict table etiquette during this time. He literally dictated precise ways food should be cut and presented on the plate. He essentially took dining and turned it into a formalized, respectful cultural practice. So for Confucius, the methodology of preparing and eating a meal became just as important as the nutritional value of the food itself.
All right, Era 4. Silk Road and new ingredients. The Han Dynasty literally is a culinary explosion. I mean, can you even imagine a time before tofu, noodles, or dumplings existed in Chinese cuisine? Because this is when they show up. The Silk Road brought in foreign imports like walnuts, cucumbers, and new peppers. But consider the incredibly advanced processing methods being invented here. Lu An invents the remarkably complex multi-step chemical process of turning hard soybeans into soft tofu. Zhang Zhongjing invents dumplings, which is an absolute masterclass in the technique of wrapping and steaming. And the physical technique of pulling, stretching, and cutting wheat or millet into long noodles becomes widespread. This was an era of profound mechanical innovation in the kitchen.
Let's step into the royal courts for Part 5, Imperial Banquets and Foreign Influence.
58. Just picture that for a second. That is the number of lavish, distinct dishes served at a single meal during the famous Shaowei banquet in the Tang Dynasty. This was a time of massive wealth, when cooking methods had to be exceptionally precise, fast, and organized to execute a 58-course feast perfectly for the elites. We also see tea drinking surging across all social classes during this period, which required its own entirely new set of specialized preparation and brewing methods.
As we move through the Middle Dynasties, the culinary techniques just keep compounding. The Song Dynasty brought in champa early ripening rice, changing the agricultural cycle forever. And bakers started inventing new, complicated twisting methods for dough to create elaborate tea snacks. Fast forward to the Ming Dynasty, and Emperor Zhu Yongzhan is actively promoting grand court dishes that literally demand armies of specialized chefs to execute. But pay special attention to that last point, the arrival of the chili pepper. Introduced via foreign trade in the Ming Dynasty, this single ingredient forever changed the trajectory of regional spice. It completely transformed how heat was layered and cooked into dishes, especially in places like Sichuan.
Okay, I love this historical twist. During the Mongol-ruled Yuan dynasty, the influx of foreign food methods brought some fantastic surprises. The Mongols didn't just bring the interactive communal cooking method of the mutton hot pot or the really intensive open-fire roasting techniques for duck. They actually introduced early versions of ice cream. They were mastering the method of mixing and preserving sweetened ice. Furthermore, halal cooking methods were introduced by Muslim immigrants, which added entirely new sets of dietary rules, strict butchery standards, and preparation techniques to the Chinese culinary landscape. If you thought 58 dishes was wild, try over 300. To truly understand the sheer scale of imperial cooking, that is the number of individual dishes served at the Qing Dynasty's legendary Man-Han banquet. Just imagine the logistical nightmare and the absolute mastery of roasting, steaming, frying, braising, and boiling required for a kitchen staff to pull that off flawlessly. This era also saw the introduction of the onion to China and the official expansion of the original 4 cuisines into the 8 great cuisines, formally documenting the remarkably diverse regional cooking techniques happening all across the empire.
And finally, we arrive at Era 6, the modern Chinese table.
20%. That number is a literal lifesaver. It represents a groundbreaking leap in food security for the modern era. In 1973, scientist Yuan Longping developed a hybrid rice that increased agricultural yields by an astonishing 20%. This highly scientific method of crop genetics and management ensured that the foundational ingredient of Chinese cuisine, rice, could safely support a rapidly modernizing and growing population. So, look at the wild contrast we have today. From 1949 to the present, there's been this amazing blending of ancient cooking techniques with a highly modern scientific focus on health and nutrition. But at the very same time, the late 1980s and 1990s brought the arrival of KFC and McDonald's right into Beijing. The rapid pressure frying and assembly line methods of Western fast food suddenly sat right alongside millennia-old traditions of slow-simmered broths and delicate hand-folded steaming. It's a total collision of culinary worlds. So, after 50,000 years of relentless culinary accumulation, from literally rubbing sticks together for fire to the mastery of pickling, the complex invention of the dumpling, and the global blending of fast food flavors, it really makes you wonder, what will the next evolution of Chinese cuisine look like? As technology and globalization advance, what brand new cooking methods are going to define the next chapter of this incredible history? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring the fascinating history on your plate.